Welcome back. This episode is a little different from what you're typically used to. We are going to be discussing abortion, so if you are not okay with that topic and you're unwilling to listen, because honestly, we've got some funny stories. I know that's not what you think. Funny stories / abortion, not really like going together. Callie is not able to be here today, and we have a note from her on why. But if you just are adamantly against it, don't want to hear it, just skip this episode because we are going to do a full deep dive on abortion.
Trigger warning, since Callie is weird about her inside, she wasn't able to attend this episode because she's a pussy.
Welcome back to Tattoo Homewreckers. I am your host, Gaia. This is my husband. For anyone who can't see him, he's doing weird stuff with his hands because he is, I'm thinking, a tad nervous. His name is Caboose, or Mr. Berry, Mr. B. And if you're like, I don't know, super weird, you can call him Dan, but I won't answer to that and I won't let you call him that in my presence. So Caboose is his name. If you have questions on why he's called Caboose, you can just message him at Sodanot on Instagram. So today we are going to talk about abortions, and we are going to talk about our abortion and why I think that it shouldn't be some like crazy, insane taboo subject. I made a post a couple years ago and put out there our abortion story and realized that we don't typically hear men's side of it. So then Caboose was kind enough to then share like his side of our abortion story. And so today we're going to go into like how you feel about me coming on, air, talking about our abortion, and like what your feelings are. And then we'll get into like the detailed story of my hilarious abortion.
Those are two words you don't really hear together. Hilarious abortion.
It's genuinely funny, I promise. I had a client laughing the other day about it, so like it's a pretty solid story. So, how are you feeling about being on an abortion episode?
So it's kind of awkward. I guess the whole thing is like I'm a firm believer like it's your body and you should have control over it. But then it's hard when you're in a relationship, especially one like long-term like relationship, where you make decisions together as a couple. So it's like, okay, so we should be making a decision together, but also on the same token, I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your body, so it's like a two-sided coin. It's like I have my opinion on the fact, and I don't want my opinion to affect what decision that you make, even though it's our lives together, and it's like making buying a house, we get together and we come to a decision together, but it's like if we were buying a house and you were the only one living in it, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
So it was hard to voice an opinion on it just because of that.
Yeah. Are you okay with me sharing?
Oh, yeah. I also am of the opinion that like it's hard because I felt like it wasn't my story to share. So like it's your body, your story. You can do whatever it is. Like if you didn't want to tell anybody, then that's fine too. But I didn't want to be the person to put that information out there, especially if you weren't comfortable with it. And it's such a taboo subject by society that like certain people, like, I mean, just the other day, like with the story you were telling about your client, like it can be a very polarizing subject. And I didn't want to be the one to put that out there and change people's opinions of you because of that, Yeah,
I totally get that. I think like I skipped the part that said, hey, you're supposed to be ashamed of having an abortion. I don't know, like Callie magically skipped the like hating her body and like body dysmorphia and like all that. Like she just skipped right past that. And like you skipped for the most part, giving a fuck what people think about you. You're just like, whatever, I don't fucking care. And I skipped the like, hey, you need to be ashamed that you had an abortion. Because I personally do not see it any different. Like if you said like, yeah, she had an abortion, I don't see it any different than me being like, yeah, he had an appendectomy, or like, yeah, he had a bunion surgery. Abortions are actually more common than bunion surgery. So, because it's 1 in 4 women in the U.S. in her lifetime or their lifetime, because not just women have abortions, but just people that are stuck with fucking uteruses have abortions. And 1 in 4 of us has them. So, like, I think that's why for me, like, just having normal conversations around it and just using the word abortion as many times as I need to get people to just stop freaking the fuck out over that word.
Yeah, and I mean, it should be like that. I mean, I guess at the root of it, it's just a like a medical procedure, right? And I feel like it's a lot of ideology put on top of the procedure. Like it's, I don't know, a lot of people without specific educations making decisions revolving a very complex procedure, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you don't fully understand. Like there's so many factors that go into it that like you have the human factor, because there's a, you know, a person with a uterus, I guess, you know, that is getting the procedure done to them, not just whatever your ideology tells you about, you know, the fetus or whatever.
I think to me it's just weird because like we don't, as a society, we do not protest. If I wanted breast implants, no one's telling me I can't modify my body like that. No one's telling me I can't dye my hair. No one's telling you can't have a fucking penis enlargement surgery if you decided to go that route.
I don't need one,
like,
but
then obviously, but I'm just saying, if you decided to get breast implants, you wouldn't have protesters there. It's like this one thing, but I think it comes back to this idea that like women's bodies are seen as inherently shameful and inherently bad. So any bit of my genitals is bad. My nipples are bad. My fucking genitalia is bad. So of course my womb would be bad, and my uterus and my cervix and everything about that is just seen as this like horrible thing. And I think for me, it's like, I don't understand why it can't just be a normal ass conversation. Like, yes, I have been called a murderer. Like very casually too. And like, I don't know.
And been equated to, was it Hitler?
Yeah, it was equated to Hitler. Yeah.
And I figure at best it's like, you know, an accomplice to murder. Not necessarily like you didn't murder or kill anything. You just kind of sat there with your feet in the stirrups. So
yeah.
I mean,
I'm just an accomplice to murder, not actually murder. Yeah. Like, what is it? An accessory?
Accessory,
yeah.
Maybe.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't. For me, what I'm hoping is that, like, the more we talk about it and the more people that have had abortions and people that know people that have had abortions, because once again, 1 in 4 uterus owners will have an abortion. So if that's the case, like, odds are you know and love someone that's had an abortion. And the way I like to think of it and the way I've said it in the past to people is that, like, if no one's ever told you they've had an abortion, you are not a safe fucking space. You have not provided that safety for someone for them to be able to say, because odds are you know more than 4 fucking uterus owners.
Yeah, and I feel like it's maybe a little bit that, but it's also the stigma behind it. Like, you don't go into a conversation about abortion automatically assuming that the other party is gonna view it favorably.
Oh, I don't give a fuck.
Well, you don't give a fuck, but like if somebody has never, like, I don't think I've ever had a conversation with another woman that they told me that they had an abortion, and it's mainly that stigma around it. And
but I think that's that part of like having real conversations with people, and B, being a safe space. It's the same thing as like people being able to come out as queer to you. Like I have driven, I think 7 people at this point to abortion clinics whose spouses and families never knew, and as far as I know, still don't know. It's the same thing as the fucking Me Too movement. Like, my dad found out I got raped because most men in my life found out I got raped besides you, because I posted on social media, because they were never a safe space that I could open up to. And so I think that by creating conversations around abortion and being like, look, I don't judge anyone that's had one. I don't give a fuck if you did, because it genuinely doesn't affect me. And just having it be a normal conversation like any other medical procedure, then, which, you know, you should get fucking time off work for, but we don't get time off work for it because it fucking sucks. But like, yeah, because we don't actively push to have a normal conversation around it and to just be like, dude, how is it any different than your bunion surgery? Really, honestly, I'm more weird about telling people you've had bunion surgery because it sounds like an old lady surgery.
Well, I'm an old lady at heart.
You are not an old lady at heart. But, I mean, that being said, more dudes have that surgery than women, but it's associated with women wearing high heels. So once again, it's this like, oh, well, it's bad if a woman does it, and she did it to herself because she wore the wrong shoes, because society tells her she's wearing fucking weird-ass shoes.
Well, and it's mainly because her feet are too big.
Oh, yeah, that too. Because everything that's wrong with us is our fault. Same as, like, it's my fault that I got pregnant.
Yep.
Not, you know, the fact that I was on birth control. And that, you know, one of us just inside to someone else.
I don't know why you would do that.
Why I would just inside of you. I don't think that's how we got pregnant.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Okay, so are you ready to tell our story?
Sure.
Okay, because your side is slightly different than my side. My side was...
My side is a lot darker than your side, I feel like. My side's not as humorous.
So I like to think of it, you know, before you, I dated a dude that was in the Army. And he was on deployment, and it was awful because he was in the middle of, like, he was on the front line. It was scary, and I was, like, never knew if he was going to be okay. And he told me one of the best things about, like, the military was, and it made me feel so much better because I felt like such a punk for being like, oh my God, I'm always, like, super worried about you. And then I was able to apply that to our relationship, was that it was easier for him because he knew going to bed each night that he was still alive and that he was safe. Whereas I was at home just constantly worrying because I didn't know if he had died. And, you know, we were just dating, like, and like not super like hardcore dating. It was like kind of casual. So like I didn't know if he was alive, and I wouldn't have been on his like will call list. Like they would have contacted his family and I would have found out third party. And he had like lost a lot of people that he was with. But I feel like that same thing applies to my abortion, is that like in that time, I knew that I was okay. I knew that like there was no hard decision. Like it was a very simple thing, and it wasn't this like arduous, horrible, like tumultuous thing that like the TV and like media makes it out to be, where they paint this story that all women regret it and all women are having this horrible, awful, like emotional like decision making. And for me, it was the fact that I peed on a stick and went, oh, I can't have a baby, never mind. Whereas like for you, you didn't know that, you know. For you, it was this like, fuck, how do I not sway her? And like, if she goes this route, what are we gonna do with a kid? And like, we're gonna have to fucking get married. And like, there's a whole other set of things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess I'll start with, you know, not with like the act, because like I think we all know how we got there. But yeah, it had been a couple months since he had come home from like home on leave, and funnily enough, I did my first tattoo on October 30th. And then I had been actively like trying to lose weight and was like crushing my goals, like trying to get hot. So when he came back in November, that he was like done with Italy and he was going to move to Florida, so I'd see him a lot more often. Then I would be like lean and mean and really, really cute. And I was like losing weight, but then my belly wasn't going anywhere. And this is how we do not judge women that do not know they were pregnant. Because denial is a really, really powerful thing. because I absolutely knew the moment we got pregnant, I was like, oh, fuck, you're pregnant. And I was on, like I said, birth control. We used condoms. Like, one time we didn't use a condom. Shit happens. But I was always on the pill. And then, yeah, I just, like, kept being like, no, I'm fine. And I had an ectopic pregnancy, so I was still, like, spotting and bleeding and cramping. And I always had an irregular cycle. So I was like, yep, that's totally fine. Everyone around me, apparently, afterwards, when I was talking, was like, oh, how did you not know? Your belly was, like, obvious. And so on October 30th, like I said, I did my very first tattoo, and I was stoked. I was like, this is it. I've been working for so long. I was 22 and had, been running a business and had spent 6 years as an apprentice and was just ready to get the ball rolling. And then that night I laid down in bed and I was like, oh, you pregnant. Like, I just knew. I was like, that was it. Like, knew. So on my way to work, I stopped by a CVS and picked up 3 pregnancy tests because, you're not going to trust one. Went to the bathroom at work before we opened, peed on a stick, had the worst, 2 minutes of my life waiting, just staring at it, watched both those lines pop up, and instantly knew that I was like, ooh, you can't have a baby. Like, you live with, I can't remember how many girls I lived with at that point. I think.
Were you living in the other house at this time, or were you still living?
No, I was living in the other house. So I think I had 4 other roommates because I was renting out my living room, and renting out the closet upstairs, that little landing, renting that out, and then both bedrooms downstairs. So yeah, there was 5 of us living in a house. So I was not financially in a place in which I could handle a baby. And also emotionally just knew that I was like, no, absolutely not. And adoption was never an option for me because the way that South Carolina works is that your family gets to be first pick. And if you know anything about me, I don't have a really good relationship with a lot of my family, and I did not want any of them raising a child. And so, yeah, it was a very instantaneous thing that I instantly knew this is the wrong time. And I had spent most of my life, I really honestly, ever since I was little, being like, okay, you're going to open up a business when you're young. So that way, by the time you hit your mid to late 20s, you can have a family, because I was raised Mexican. So, we are all about popping out kids. That is it. I was raised that my purpose on earth was that I was going to have kids. And for anyone who's purely white and finds it offensive, calm down. It's fine. Any of our listeners that are Hispanic will be like, yep, we get that message. So yeah, I knew instantly. And I worked with my mom at the time. I told my mom and dad. My dad's reaction was probably my favorite, because I was very obviously oof, okay, I need to tell you so that way you know that I'm going to need time off work, because I'm going to need a couple days to get it handled. And my dad, super sweet, really, really amazing Nebraska man, absolutely country, so kind, just got so excited, hugs me and was like, congratulations. And I'm hugging him Daddy, I'm not keeping it. I can't have a baby. No. So then I had to promptly after that notify you and tell you. So how did you feel when I told you I was pregnant?
I mean, you're always told, that the goal is that's your end goal is housewife, kids. It's okay, well, I mean, this is what I'm supposed to want. And then just being man, I don't really want this.
You didn't have a house or a wife. We weren't married.
No, but I'm saying
We
that's
were engaged.
if there were check boxes about what you're supposed to have, when you get old, it's supposed to be a house, wife, kids.
Yeah.
Maybe a retirement plan. I don't know. But it's okay, well then that's that check in the box, and it's I don't really think it should be on my list. And it's thinking about it, where we were at, especially transitioning from one command to the next, and then
moving countries,
still not making a lot of money, separately at least. It's okay, well then we're going to have to get married. That's the only way that either one of us would be able to afford this, because even though she had started tattooing, how long was it before you were taking a paycheck? You know,
it was still a couple of years. Yeah,
a couple of years before you were taking money maybe for food, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that, and I'd only done tattoos for one day.
Yeah. So like that's how it was like, this is going to affect us and what our plans are for the future, because at that point we were planning on, I think it was 1 year. I had 2 years left in the military at that time. It's like, well, you know, we're going to have to stay in until we can afford to actually raise this kid. So I'm going to have to re-enlist, and like all this cascading effect, like how it would affect our future, you know. And I think where we're at now is definitely way better than where we were, but I don't think we would be where we are now, you know, if...
Oh, absolutely not. I still stand by the belief that if we had been able to have said child and then had said child, we would not be together now. And if we were, we would not like each other, because I have enough awareness, and I had it at that point, even though I was still, you know, I was 22 and I was incredibly immature.
Oh, yeah.
And I like your, oh yeah. And like, honestly, an emotionally volatile fucking mess. I was incredibly self-destructive.
We both were. And like, I since then, you know, I've grown immensely, and like all of our issues that we had would have just been imprinted on this kid, you know. And I think you're right. I think that we definitely, it would be a very abrasive relationship at best.
Yeah. Which I honestly just don't think we would have stayed together. I think I would have been even fucking worse. And not had the opportunity to spend time with myself to grow and to grow up and to like go to therapy and to do all of my self work, because I would have been raising a kid. And we had very different ideas of, and even now, like when we talk about like if we had a kid, we still have different ideals.
So do you think you would still be a tattoo artist?
No.
At least maybe now, but definitely not. You wouldn't be as far along. Because I feel like, you know, we would have had to definitely step up and get married sooner, and you definitely would have had to
move to be with you.
Move to be with me, because of all the support that the military gives spouses and children. Because I feel like that's the only way we would have been able to go through with it.
Yeah, I would have just become a dependent and probably just worked odd jobs, because like with a command you would have moved and I wouldn't have been able to get an apprenticeship somewhere while raising a kid. So like, yeah, so if I've done your tattoo, say thank you to abortion, because I wouldn't have been a fucking tattoo artist. So you would have gotten your tattoo by someone else. Oh, I just knocked the table. Yes. I have to put my knee up every time. Yeah, so then back to story. Found out I was pregnant. Yeah, story time. Found out I was pregnant, and then I went to a so at the time I didn't have insurance, and like I said, I had 4 other roommates, so that was so that way I could like live, because I had opened a tattoo shop right after or right before the recession, and so when the recession hit, we were not doing well financially, and I didn't have a very good business partner, so didn't make money. I went to a they call them crisis centers, and to find out how far along I was, so I knew like what my options were and like how much it would cost to get an abortion. And I went to a crisis center where they just encourage you to have a child. Like, that's all they do. It is just to give you an ultrasound and to basically tell you you're going to be a great mom. And even though you don't have insurance and you don't have any way to support this kid, they'll help you for the first 6 months that baby is on this earth.
Really, that's the hardest time.
Yeah,
First 6 months.
the only time that matters, that you need support and that you need like clothes and stuff like that, and you need formula, is the first 6 months. And then after 6 months, fuck you. You're on your own. And they gave me pamphlets of like, look, if you don't get married, then you don't have to pay any hospital bills. And they informed me on like ways to basically like fuck over a system. So that way I didn't have to pay stuff, but I would still have had a child. And the woman who did my ultrasound had a really hard time finding the fetus. And like, I had to go pee on a stick. So she's like, we know for sure you're pregnant, but like, we're having a hard time. And it took her a solid 20, 30 minutes, and she ended up having someone else come in and help. And then, finally found it and was like, yep, everything is beautiful and healthy. And you have a 15-week-old baby. And everything is great. And so I was like, oh, fuck. Well, at that point, I believed the bullshit lies I'd always been told, which was at 15 weeks, a fetus can feel pain. Now I know that that's not true. Scientists have shown that it is not until the 29th to 30th week that they actually feel pain, because I had believed some like stupid thing where it was like, okay, if I'm past 15 weeks, I just won't get an abortion. Like, it's too far along. I'll have the baby. That's just how it's going to be. And then when she said, and I made the mistake of telling her this, but I did the math of like, because, he lived overseas, and I was like, but I saw him like 14 weeks ago. So like, that doesn't make sense because it's only been 14 weeks. So yeah, but I told her like, this is my plan. And then she was like, all right, well, you're 15 weeks. So, like, guess you're keeping it. Good job, you.
Gotcha.
Yeah, gotcha. Like, that's it. And then I knew the moment she said that, I was like, nope, I still can't have a baby. Like, I don't care. I can't do it. This is not meant for me, like, whatsoever. Can't do it. I did, the cool part is because it took me another week to get a appointment at Planned Parenthood. And I did have like, at that point because I knew I was pregnant, I was like aware of all these like insane cravings that I'd been having that I just thought was because, okay, now this sounds ridiculous now because now I'm like all into fitness and shit. But at that point, I genuinely thought that I was craving orange juice and like a pound of sauerkraut every single day because I was working out so much that I was like, man, I'm just like the healthiest person ever. And I was just drinking like a carton of orange juice every day.
And she hates orange juice.
I do. I hate orange juice. Side note, I gave myself food poisoning in high school because I had the flu and left orange juice by my bed, and it was pulpy orange juice. And I just, not everything in England needs to be refrigerated that needs to be refrigerated here. So I didn't know that orange juice needs to be refrigerated. So I drank like 3-day-old orange juice that had been sitting in a house without air conditioning in South Carolina. So I don't like orange juice. So then I went to Planned Parenthood, and at that point they'd measured me measure the fetus and said, okay, you're 15 weeks in one day, and due to regulations in our county, we cannot give you an abortion past 15 weeks. And she's like, and you're measuring at 15 weeks one day. So then they referred me to another women's center, which was down in Charleston. So I had to drive, 2.5 hours, Charleston. I couldn't drive because you can't drive yourself. So then that was another couple days. And I had to call an abortion hotline so that way they could help me with funding. But then that money paid for the ultrasound at Planned Parenthood. And then they were like, yeah, you're fucked now. Sorry. Like, that's all we can give you. So then I had to hit him up and be like, hi, I'm broke. I have no money, and it's going to cost us $895 to get an abortion. And you're also broke. So, yeah, please send money. And when I went down there, because I was further along, they were like, okay, we're going to have to dilate you, and we're going to have to do this surgically. We can't do it with a pill. And I went in at 7:30 in the morning, and we started the dilation process, which is super fun because if you've ever had a kid, you know what it's like to be dilated. I constantly thought that I was shitting myself. Like, I feel genuinely so bad for that nurse because, fun fact about abortion clinics, you cannot bring in a cell phone. You cannot bring anything. You just have to be in there by yourself. That's it. You're with other women. But then there's like this weird thing that like, it's very like hush hush, like you're not supposed to be talking, which, you know, anyone who's listened to this like more than just this episode, anyone that knows me, I'm not fucking sitting in silence. That's my worst nightmare. No. Also, this is like my only chance. At that point, I was like, man, I'm probably not going to do this again. So might be my only chance to like figure out like why we're all here. Because I was on fucking birth control. So I want to know who else in here was on birth control. And like what birth control you were on. Who here has kids? Because you hear that bullshit line about how like, oh, I know women who've had like 3 or 4 abortions. When I looked up statistics earlier, and I think it's 90% of abortions are done, like women only have 1 of them in their lifetime. So like, please explain to me all these like alleged women that you know that have had multiple abortions.
Well, it's an average. So you have like, you know, 90% of women are getting 1 abortion, but then you got like 1 woman that's getting like 150 to make up for all the
Okay, yeah, so math.
Yeah, math.
Which my dumb woman brain cannot do, so that's why that doesn't make sense.
It's only 2/3 the size of mine, so...
Yeah, that is true. Yep. So then I'm quizzing them. I think my favorite part is because it's me, so I'm just like, I want to know information. First off, depot shot, that fucking shit does not work. Most of the women in there had the implant and the depot shot, so at that point I was like, mental note, never those. My pill, obviously not super effective, but the majority of them, I think it was like 1 other chick in there that had the pill. And then I'm also asking them like, okay, who here is like super distraught over this? Because like, I am not feeling guilty or like any sort of like remorse or anything awful. And that is the entire story I've always been told, was that we should feel horrible. And most of them had kids already. And it was just a financial decision of the fact that they were like, yeah, I can't afford another kid. And fun fact to all the fucking dick slinging motherfuckers out there, most of them couldn't afford a kid because their spouse, you know, the dick slinging motherfucker, wasn't providing any sort of income. So this person already has multiple kids, gets pregnant, has to go through the painful procedure and also carry the bullshit shame that we have over it because this motherfucker can't help pay for another fucking kid. Fuck you. So anywho, I spend 12 and a half hours getting dilated, constantly going to the bathroom to check because I'm pretty sure I peed and shit myself. Like, that's all it feels like. It feels like you are just pushing down the biggest poo in your life. It is awful. But the world's nicest nurse. I say that, but she was like super over me by the end. So I'm just going to go to the bathroom. And she's like, you didn't shit yourself. Like, she started out like, you didn't defecate. And then by the end of the night, it was just me and her because I wasn't dilating enough, that she's like, you didn't shit yourself. You're fine. Just take a seat. Which genuinely still not mad at her. Her job sucks. You have to deal with grown women being like, I think I shit. Then I go in. We start the procedure. Also, they could not give me, at the clinic that I was at, because of regulations in South Carolina at that point, I could not be administered any anti-anxiety medicines or any pain pills. So I had to feel all of it. Oh, also, I forgot, at that point, I had to watch the ultrasound because you are required to, which the poor ultrasound tech was so amazingly sweet and was like, hey, look, I'm sorry, I have to show you the ultrasound and you have to like look at it. Like, that is regulations, that is the law, this is what we have to do. And then you have to listen to the heartbeat. And we have to listen to it for at least 2 minutes. And so I had to sit there and listen to the heartbeat. Now, luckily, because I'm a fucking strong little motherfucker, I don't give a shit. I'm like, okay, what up, fetus? You're trying to fucking kill me. Like, you're going to ruin my life. No. At that point, I didn't necessarily know it was ectopic. I didn't know it was ectopic until we went back. And then for anyone who doesn't know what an ectopic pregnancy is, that is when the fetus is not actually in your uterus. It's anywhere outside of it. So in my case, it was in between my fallopian tube and my uterus. And this is where it gets good. So my doctor, it is at that point, I think 8:30 at night. Yeah, I think it's about 8:30. So it's late. She has been doing this all day. That particular center, they volunteer. The doctors just come in and volunteer. So props for her. She had a super fucking long day. She goes in, she starts cleaning shit out. It's like a vacuum cleaner. They're just in there like just vacuuming some shit. And they go and check the tray because they have to make sure they have everything. And she is politely like whispering to the nurse, but very serious whispers. And I am conscious and fully aware of what's going on. And so she is like, okay, hey, we don't have everything. Like, not everything is here. We're missing some parts. And the nurse is like still like looking at everything. And she's like, yeah, we don't have a head. And I hear this, even though they are doing the best job to like whisper. But also, fun fact about me, I can fucking hear anything. So you think I can't hear you? I can. I'll just act like I can't. He knows. So then I start getting the giggles because all I pictured was the heads popped off like those dolls, like when you're a kid and you have Barbie dolls or baby dolls and you pop the head off and you can't get the head back on. And so the doctor is using the ultrasound wand and like checking everything. And she's like obviously flustered, but doing a great job, like staying incredibly professional, but also very frustrated in the fact that like I should have been in a hospital and not necessarily in a women's clinic because I needed additional care. But because everything else leading up to this point, nobody had bothered disclosing that like, hey, by the way, you got a head in your fucking fallopian tube. So she goes in, does some more stuff, you know, vacuum. Then I should say coat hanger. She's in there with a coat hanger, just cleaning shit out. They then go check the little tray and she's like, okay, so she's like, we're almost done with the procedure. She's still like super sweet, super calm, super nice, thinks that I am crying, like because I'm sad and emotional, but really it's because I have the worst case of the giggles I've ever had in my life because this poor woman is trying to do her job and all I can think about is the fact that there's just like a dead baby head floating around inside of me, just like all sorts of in there. Then she's like, okay, so we got half of it. We need to go get the other half. So at this point, I just have like, I don't know, half a dead baby head inside of me. They get the rest of it out, thankfully. Good job, them. Meanwhile, still trying to be professional, still trying to be sweet. They roll you on your side. They give you a fucking shot of peanut butter in your butt, and it hurts real bad. It's apparently antibiotics, but it hurts. So when he talks about the military peanut butter shot, I'm like, yes, I understand that, because at that point, you're so relieved that you're done that it like hurts but doesn't hurt. Then I get dressed, clean up, have my 17,000 pads on, walk out. My mom's there. Doctor walks me out because I'm the last patient. They have to like let us out because another fun fact about abortion clinics is you have to be buzzed in and out. You can't just like walk in and out because there's so much security from the jackasses that try to blow them the fuck up. So my mom's there. Doctor walks me out to let her know that everything went okay. And my mom sees me and is like, oh, how'd it go? And first words out of my mouth, the head popped off. Like loud as fuck too. Because it's me. I'm not quiet. We know this. So my mom, of course, is like, Gaia, what? Like, no, like, are you okay? But way more on the, shut the fuck up. Why would you say that? To be fair, no one else was there. It was just us. Everyone else was done. Most of the fucking hallways were dark. Like, the place was obviously closed, and I'm just the last person there. Which, yes, is just as awkward as being the last person in a restaurant. It was fucking weird. The doctor that at that point finally starts to laugh because she's like, oh my God, this fucking woman is psycho. Like, what the fuck? And so she's like, yes, we had an ectopic pregnancy, so we need to keep an eye on it because there is some scar tissue and some damage that can happen with that. So just so you know, these are the signs to watch out for. They did not, however, tell me that with an ectopic pregnancy, your hormones surge in a very different way. So 2 days later, I proceeded to produce milk. So yeah, I also became a cow for a solid bit of time there. But yeah, that's my side of my abortion clinic with my my dead baby head popping off. And then you came home a couple weeks after.
Yeah, and I think we were actually... I came home and we were already moving into Florida.
Yeah.
So like we were staying, I hadn't checked into my command yet. I think you were in South Carolina and I was in a hotel room or something like that. And then like you're dealing with everything and I'm stuck down there because I have to check into my command. And then like you come down there and you're still recovering from the surgery, and like I'm just doing the best that I can to try and, you know, support you through this. And because it's just like recovering from any other surgery, you know, there's things that you have to do. And I remember, I think you were sitting in the bathtub just bleeding. And I was like, oh my God. Like, do we need to go to the hospital? I was like, no, this is normal. I was like, it doesn't look normal. Like, no, this is fine. It's just part of the procedure. It's like, okay, well.
Yeah. That was actually like when I knew that he loved me more than anything else. Because I also still, didn't have insurance. And I was only like 80% sure that I was bleeding the normal amount, because they give you really loose guidelines on like, if you bleed, I think it's like 1 pad's worth an hour. Anything more than that, be concerned. And I was like right at the cusp of that. Which seems like
a lot. Like as a guideline, like 1 pad an hour, it seems like a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I just ended up sitting in the bathtub bleeding, because it was just like, I'm over like constantly just sitting in a puddle of stuff. So I'll just go sit in the bathtub and carry it out. Just like carrying there.
And just turn the hot water on and just.
Yep. Look like an accident.
I mean, it wasn't our bathtub, so.
Yeah, it was a hotel. It's even grosser.
So I'm sorry for whoever's staying at the extended stay in Jacksonville. Can't remember the room number. Just know
it looked like someone bled out in there. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the like what I said before. Like it was hard in the moment, especially, you know, our ability to communicate during that time, even when I was in port, was very restricted because of the internet and because of just the time difference.
Yeah.
You know, so I was getting small snippets, and you were going through all these things, like that whole story you told. A majority of it, you know, I wasn't even able to like talk to you through.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't able to support you, so it was a lot of like.
Well, you wouldn't have been able to be there anyway, because you can't come back.
Well, I mean, just even the moral support side, you know, and it's kind of like. You were going through all these things and then having to tell me after it, and like just the helplessness that I felt, you know, not being able to be there. And it's like you're told that that's your role as a man, you know, you're supposed to be there and support her. And I was like, I wasn't able to do that. So it was that. And then on top of it, like trying to figure out whether or not we were both on the same page with this. Like, is she thinking that I'm saying that, you know, I'm not ready for kids because she's saying she's not ready for kids? And is she saying that she's not ready for kids because I'm saying that I'm not ready for kids, and she really wants to have it? And it's like trying to figure that out at the same time, like trying to not push my opinion on you.
And your opinion is? That
I definitely wasn't ready for kids.
Are you ready for kids now?
I'm having a hard time with 3 dogs. Sometimes I just don't feed them.
That's not true. You always feed them.
They can fend for themselves.
No, they're
descendants of wolves.
Okay, so that's why Waffles keeps like smothering Callie, because she's trying to kill her so she can eat her because she's hungry. Yeah.
And that's why she ate my friggin' lavender plants.
He's mad because he caught her in the backyard eating his lavender plants. Yeah, but I think that highlights that issue that, like, even had you been stateside, like, you could have driven me there, but you cannot come back with me. You can't sit and wait with me. So it's not like when you got your surgeries and I could sit in the waiting room with you, and then you go back for surgeries and then post-op, and then I can sit with you again. And it's another one of those like stupid fucking things where it's like, this is the only procedure that I'm aware of. Maybe there's another that like you can't visit somebody.
And is that I'm not familiar with the laws, especially not in every state because it's so friggin' different, but like, is that a law by the state, or is that a requirement by the clinic?
I'm not 100% sure on that either. I don't know any, like, because I've only ever driven women or, you know, people with uteruses in South Carolina.
Right.
So I haven't had that here. But as far as I know, like, most abortion clinics, you have to be, like that is a purely by yourself thing.
Right.
And which just feeds into that idea that it's shameful and it's not just like any other medical practice. But if I said, I'm going to get a DNC, which is just a medical fucking abortion, then that can be done in a hospital and my insurance can cover it. Which is fucking ridiculous because it's literally the same thing.
But it's like, oh, well, then you need a reason. You know?
Yeah.
It can't be because it's your body.
Yeah.
You know?
Because it's mine.
Yeah.
But like, if you want to get a procedure done, you got bunion just because you were like, hey, this is causing me pain. This is causing me pain to like grow some fucking thing inside of me. But I think it just comes down to power and then not normalizing the conversation. Everyone gets so fucking weird if they hear the word abortion, which is also why I refuse to sterilize my language and be like, yes, I had an ectopic pregnancy, so it's okay that I got it. No, it's okay that I got it because I didn't want a fucking kid. And it made me realize that we didn't want kids. Because then we finally were able to have a real discussion about the fact that he was like, yeah, I don't fucking want kids. And I was like, I don't want to have to share you with anyone. So then we've been able to create an amazing life together because we were able to talk about it. Yeah,
and I as unfortunate as it was, you know, to have to go through all that, it brought that conversation to the forefront. And we were able, because, you know, in a relationship, you kind of talk, you know, amorphously about it, like, oh yeah, you know, maybe kids someday, and then you don't really have a set plan. So it was beneficial in that fact where it was like, okay, well, you know, what does it look like? Like, we could potentially have a kid. What would it look like for us going forward if we were to have it? And we went through and we're like, well, this is, you know, like we were talking about before, these are all the things that are going to have to happen in our lives for us to successfully go through with this.
Yep.
And we're like, that doesn't sound like a life that we want to live. Because we both had our own plans, you know, before that. And it's like, well, just flip the table over and start all over again, you know?
Like, fuck your plans.
Yeah.
That being said, it's been 13 years. So, yeah.
It's like forever.
Yep. So, do you regret... we're playing a hypothetical game here because it was ectopic. The doctor informed me that had I waited an additional week, I could have been standing inside of a hospital and I would have bled out because of the location of where the fetus was. There was no way for it to ever be viable, and there was no way for me to carry it to term. So for anyone who needs to feel better about my abortion story, there you go. It fucking saved my life. But for anyone who knows me, it was probably the best decision I ever made. Not because it saved my life, but because it allowed me to show myself that, like, once I've made my mind up on something, I've made my fucking mind up. I don't give a fuck what gimmicks you got, what sort of bullshit laws are in place to tell me I can't do something. I'm gonna fucking do it.
Yeah, that's super manipulative. Like the whole heartbeat thing. Like, didn't they even give you baby clothes?
They did. Yeah, they gave me baby clothes. They gave me diapers, which that's fucking wasteful. Yeah. Like, what the fuck? And then also when I was at the clinic, the doctor had to show us a video and stood there and was like, hey, I cannot contradict anything that this video has to say. So she stood there as the video told us that we would get an increased risk of cancer, that we would have an increased risk of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, cervical cancer from having an abortion. And also we would have an increased risk of breast cancer because we didn't have babies. And that we would become suicidal afterwards, which, fuck you, I wasn't suicidal. I was super fucking relieved it was done with. And that we would regret that decision our whole lives. Which is why we like to play this game come every like April, May, around like the alleged due date, where we're like, oh, we would have a insert age at this point, 12-year-old. We'd have a 12-year-old. Oh, look at how good our life is without having to make that decision. Like without going down that path. But like the doctor just had to stand there as these very obvious lies were being played, and these women are being forced to watch this and then think that like, yes, that's true. I'm going to die of cervical cancer because I had an abortion. The fuck. My doctor was rad though. She stood there and she didn't say anything, so she did not break the law, but she sure as fuck shook her head on anything that wasn't real. And then the couple things that were real, where it was like, you can have, adverse side effects, she did nod her head. But for the most part, she was just like, and shook her head. So, are you glad? Do you wish we would have had it any other way? Do you want 7 kids now? All of a sudden?
Definitely not. I think that the only thing that I think about is I think we would have eventually been good parents. Like if we continued to grow and we were the people we are now and we had a kid, like we'd probably be good parents now.
Yeah, if we had a kid now.
Yeah, but I think like we would have fucked that kid up so bad.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one of us it would have hated more, but
ooh, I think it would have been me. I don't know, because I would have probably gone the route of poisoning the kid against you, because that's like a fucking family thing. So
I would have been a fun dad though,
which means I would have had to have all the responsibility,
all the discipline. Yeah,
I would have had to do everything hard.
Let's go play some video games.
And then I would have been the fucking bad parent. This is why we don't have kids.
Let's level up your character in World of Warcraft.
I hate you. So, yes. That being said, if you ever need a ride, need support, whatever, please reach out. Not so much to Callista. She doesn't talk about her insides. She doesn't want to hear anything about your insides. She doesn't want to talk about hers. So skip her on this. She's still 100% pro-choice, but she just doesn't want to talk about like anything. She don't talk about your fingernails being on the inside of your body. She don't talk about your teeth. Nothing. Nothing that like connects the outside to the inside. No. Skip her for that. However, if you do need anything, I am always here. He is here. We are always here to support you in any way we can. And please, if you would like to share your abortion stories, please share them. I would love to hear them. And we will be back in a couple days. We will have another fun episode on Thursday that will not be quite as serious and may or may not have dead baby jokes. Thank you so much. Are you going to say bye?
Bye.